and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And I missed the first line because you moved things around, and now
You said you were going to.
And I did. Anyway, together we are the leads on game design and development here at Codename.
We also founded Codename, so we've got that going for us too.
We're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
Still holding up.
Today is our 52nd episode.
Not to be confused with our 51st episode, which was last week.
Or our 50th episode, which was a week before that.
I am just really glad we've cleared that up.
Me too.
Wait, though. What will next week be then?
Oh, give me a sec. I can look that up. It appears that, yes, as I thought, that will be our 53rd episode. 53rd.
Thanks. I'm just going to make a note of that, and we can move on.
As always, we are here to answer development and design questions about idle champions.
But if you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, looks like it's Iron Man 2 this week.
Yes, I'm continuing my MCU rewatch. I love a good sequel that rehashes all the same character development as the first movie.
Do you think Idle Champions will ever get a sequel?
That's a good question. If it does, maybe we can get Mickey Rourke to play Minx.
Ooh, I'll have my people talk to his people.
Perfect.
All right. As always, we have pulled some questions forward from the previous show that we did not get to, and we'll answer some of those while waiting for new questions to come in, as well as I have some updates on the items that we flagged to get looked at by the dev team. So without any further stalling for time, let's get started with those. All right. That fixes list just says empty-handed.
Will you fix the empty-handed issue?
No, I think I've got no fixes to report this week. This is an issue of summer vacations and new features that I don't think we've spoiled yet that are coming soon, that I know have been taking up a lot of the development time. But that said, I do have a list of ongoing items. In this list I grew from the previous week because I added a number of things from last week's show to it. But the first item on the list, actually for ongoing, is the Shop 3 improvements. That is something that we have been watching very closely, and it looks at this point, fingers crossed, but it looks like the performance of Shop 3 has reached where we need it to be for a larger, broader rollout of that. And so while we are still just watching that for a little bit more data, that is likely coming very soon to everybody. So stay tuned for that. As far as other ongoing items, we're going to add a slider to allow for multiple scrolls when you're activating them in Trials of Mount Tiamat. An indicator on the background party icon to show when a party is not progressing or auto-progressing any longer. We do need to do a pass, as I pointed out last week, to make sure that when you hit escape, it is properly closing all menus and dialogues, because it sounds like some of those are missing. And then we've got my usual list of items here, which is that we are going to add, I promise, at some point, the options for when loading a save formation to have both recall, missing champions, skip missing champions, and cancel instead of just recall and cancel. Pity timers on both the epic, or for the next epic on chest on the time gate screen and on the chest store screen. This is where I bug Justin about missing note on the strong core. I know you finished putting together a core editor. I saw you even put through an example of just fixing it, but you didn't hit save. What's going on there, Justin?
Well, we've explained it on previous episodes. I refer back to those.
Okay. We still like to get high-value imps to automatically spawn, save feats with formations, and I actually have started looking at the next item here with Adam, our artist, who did the UI for this originally and is going to continue to do the UI on these cards, but the visual changes so that rarities read better for any kind of color blindness. And so we've started work on that, and hopefully that can get in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I saw your progress on that. That's looking pretty cool.
All right, let's move on. Moving on to leftover questions from the prior shows. First one, out of the gate. This one is from VazFalsVT. Okay. Question is, would C&E ever consider adding achievements for skill-based stuff? For example, manually clicking a maximum speed bird while at 10 times speed from potions.
I mean, I think those are pretty fun ideas. I like having little like Easter egg kind of things like that. I mean, the whole distraction sort of mechanic in general is not really explained in the game, so it's kind of an Easter egg in itself. Um, I don't know that we'd ever have time to put something like that in, but it'd be kind of fun, and it'd also be very, very hard to click a maximum speed bird while at 10 times speed from potions. Like, yeah, it'd be really hard.
Yeah. There's a question or there's a comment I see here in the chat. No, it is a slider, not a spider. Although a spider that uses multiple trial skulls would be pretty cool. A little familiar? Do we have any familiars that are spiders at this point? I don't think we do.
Yeah, possibly not.
All right. Next question left over from last week. This one here is from Garwar. The question is, can the cryptex just be just +1 the type of chest you redeemed a code for, like buying a patron chest does? This would make it easier to open multiple codes, one after the other. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting kind of idea. Obviously, it works great with like the codes you redeem from a stream like this, because it's up there. You just type it in, and it's one chest. Sometimes there are codes that redeem more stuff than that, so you could potentially get some champions or a skin or a feat or something with that. And obviously, that doesn't work as well with the +1, because we really want to make sure you see what's in there. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on having it maybe function differently if there's just one chest versus anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it could be an option, just, to click to remain up. If you've got a lot of codes to do, it could be helpful, but...
Yeah.
All right, the chat is telling us there is a spider familiar. We do not know our own game.
To be fair, there are a lot of familiars. I do not have all of them.
Okay. Yeah, because Gar was saying it could make it for Electrums. That'd be fantastic. 40 plus a week right now. That's a lot of chests coming from streams.
That's if you get them all, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Next question left over from last week is from Mr. Shikadance. What do you guys think about a modular Modron core? A system where you can earn nodes and create your perfect custom core seems pretty cool to me. Any issues that would keep that from being possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of two issues that I see with the idea of a modular Modron core that you can kind of customize and build yourself. One of those is it would probably require a rewrite of the Modron system, just because of how the cores are currently functioned, or not a rewrite, but certainly quite a bit of code to kind of handle that, as well as a whole bunch of UI for like setting that up. And the second one would just be the one that really kills it for me, which is just the balance of that. We don't want there to be a Modron core that is just the best in every situation. And if we give you guys a chance to min-max one, you will absolutely create that. And so just in order to keep the power curve of the Modron cores in check, we prefer to design them ourselves and make sure that we're not going too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could do something where the system only allowed you to have a certain number of each type of node to sort of keep that in check. But I mean, certainly it's not impossible to have some way to do that. But I don't know that being able to actually build your own at that point would be as high an advantage as you probably were hoping that it would be.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to be more Modron cores in the game. Fairly soon, we're probably going to see another Modron core. So. There'll be lots of opportunities to play with the pipes and move stuff around. So
yeah, don't
worry about that.
Okay, and the last question we've got here left over from last week is from Zandor. Any chance of size categories being added with mechanical effects? For example, a goblin champion having Fury of the Small that only triggers when appropriate for appropriately sized creatures.
Yeah, I think the idea of adding size categories to monsters is pretty challenging, just because we have so many monsters in the game that it'd be quite a bit of work to go back through and categorize all of them. Not to say it couldn't happen, but it would certainly be challenging. Though it's funny, the specific example you used here of a goblin champion having Fury of the Small, we actually have a goblin champion in the game that has an ability called Fury of the Small, and that is Lazaps. And they increase the damage. I believe that ability increases the damage of all sort of small-sized race champions, so goblins and gnomes and halflings and dwarves and whatnot, for each of those in the formation. So it's certainly possible to build a formation around small-sized champions, but it goes off of races rather than any sort of actual size categorizationing. That's not even a word. I give up. I'm done.
We're only 10 minutes in. You can't give up.
I'm out.
All right. Cool. That's it for last week's questions. Moving on to the new questions. Well, there are a bunch of them already crossed out. What's going on here?
I'm just working through them.
Right. Okay. That one does not want to answer. This one is. Oh. Why is this crossed out?
Let's move on to the questions that are not crossed out.
All right. Okay. It's too late. We already asked you about the strong core node. Okay. First question then, the one that's not crossed out, is from Nigel Brook 91. And the question is there any chance of an update to champion selection on console as more champs get added? Cycling through is getting quite annoying.
Yeah, Dave. Is there? Is there? This is more of a question for
the UI design. Yeah, that's a fair question. I will give you that. If anyone hasn't played on the console UI, the way you select between swapping champions is you click on this, you go into the champion screen, and then you select the champion that you wish to swap with, and you hit Y until you get the champion, or I guess whatever the PlayStation
equivalent
is.
Top button is. Yeah,
we know what platform I typically play on. I guess what triangle on PlayStation. Anyway,
I don't know. That's why I always lost at Heavy Rain. I didn't know the shapes.
At least you didn't cut your finger off. Anyway, yeah, and this the more champions that are in that particular spot, the longer that takes to get through. And of course, if you're in a hurry and you're clicking really quickly, it's easy to go too far. And I don't think there's a reverse, so I think you have to go all the way through.
Yeah, and we've got up to 10 champions in some slots now, or going to be 10 champions.
Which is really insult to injury. Yeah, I'll tag that one. I think that's a fair request. I know when we initially did the UI on that, none of the seats had quite that many champions in them, but yeah, that's definitely got to be annoying. So that's highlighted. I put it on the list.
Right.
Cool. Next question we have here is from Vovcast. And the question, which I'll read as soon as Justin's curse is out of the way, is why are positional formation abilities separated from other abilities? What is so special about them so this discrimination started?
Yeah, so I mean, I can kind of go over why they're different abilities, or sort of what we consider to be positional versus what we consider to not be positional. And positional formation abilities are ones where the effect of it is based on, or the who it affects, I guess, is based on where they are in the formation. So a good example would be like Brunor's Rally is a positional formation ability because it increases the damage of champions in the same column. If you got a champion who's not in that same column, they're not affected by it, and so it's positionally influenced by who it affects. Non-positional formation abilities would be ones that just apply to everyone, or potentially there are tag-based ones that apply to champions with certain tags. And there's really just a separation there, because generally the positional formation abilities are ones that are just straight up kind of damage boosts. Sometimes there's speed items as well, but non-positional formation abilities, there's a lot more variety in those. There's sort of other ways that we do speed. There's gold-based ones. There's many other kind of effects that those have. So it's generally safer for us to have things that buff positional formation abilities, because it's going to result in less kind of weirdness. Like we're not going to potentially be buffing something that we never intended to buff if we buff positional formation abilities, for the most part. So that's why we separate those two, and that's why we kind of recently updated, I think it was Voronika, to only buff positional formation abilities. The intention, the design was that she only buffed positional formation abilities, but that did not make it into the first release of her. So she was buffing everything, which was resulting in a bunch of kind of strange mechanics. And there are, I will say, there are kind of some edge cases where things that seem like they should be positional are not positional, and things that seem like they are not positional are positional. And that's one of the tasks that design has, is to go through all of the upgrades in the game, all of the abilities in the game, and actually try to manually tag them, as opposed to having the game engine itself try to determine what's positional and what's not. And that way we'll have a little bit more of a tight control over that, and we can make changes if we need to.
Okay.
Let's see. The next question here is from Delkun, who asks, could you add the number of areas with hit-based and armor-based opponents in the adventure descriptions on the campaign map?
That is a curious question. Mainly, sort of my mind immediately goes to the question of, is that an important metric that should be on that, in that description?
I think what they're looking for is adventures without hit-based and armor-based enemies that they can more easily kind of click debuff through.
Right. Okay, I see. Sort of a.
So, I mean, it does bring up the interesting point, or the interesting suggestion I've seen in the past, which is to have more information about the adventures on the campaign map. So you could potentially also have something that says like, hey, this is the number of, this is the most common monster type, right? It's like mostly beasts or mostly fiends or undead or whatever. So that way you can kind of pick and choose if you're looking for an adventure to do for, say, a patron challenge or some other type of quest.
Yeah, I mean, I like the sound of that a little. Like, that immediately makes sense to me as to why you'd want to have that information on here. I guess if the question is looking for an area without the hit-based and armor opponents, yeah, I mean, to my mind, immediately, to my mind, that the hit-based ones, I'm not 100% sure of sort of the general utility of something like that to add on the description. I do think that having the sort of the types of monsters in general that you see could be quite useful, but yeah, I don't know that the hit-based one is something that we'd see added anytime soon, but we could see the monster types. Yeah. Okay, next question here from Seawolf177. I asked about Sandy's Dash last week, and you mentioned maybe a feat that lowers the time to start it. Can you do this, since Sandy's Dash is only useful for gem farms and in the beginning of a run when the party is not under attack, not pushing for a wall or anything?
Yeah, I think that's, like I said last week, I do like the idea of a feat that lowers the time to start it. Shandy is likely going to get some changes, or some balance changes, some light balance changes potentially in maybe sometime before the end of the year. So it might be a good opportunity to do stuff around that time. Probably some other changes as well to Shandy, just to bring them up to speed of sort of a normal or a current champion, as opposed to a champion who came out as part of year 2 or 3 or whenever they initially came out. So yes. I think we'll see some changes to Shandy before the end of the year.
Okay. Next question here is from Nunknown_. Am I correct in noticing that Marilyn's alt has not been updated to add an effect for when Daub is in the party?
Yeah, so I looked into this before, because I saw this question on Reddit, I think yesterday, when I was randomly browsing, and the design is that there is an effect. The effect of when you use Marilyn's meat grinder when Daub's in the party is that his what are the stacks called? His deposit stacks should be increased by 1% every time that ultimate is used. So if that is not happening, then that is certainly a bug. I talked to the developer, and it does look like it should increase the stacks. So the problem may be that it is just not mentioned anywhere in either the champion spotlight or the actual champion like in-game itself, which would be a problem, but one that would be much simpler to fix than actually having to implement it. So we will look into that, and we will hopefully get that fixed by the end of the week, if it's just a description issue.
If it's not listed in the description in game, how would anybody? Okay, I'm not spilling water on things. It's fine.
No, you just typed a whole bunch of stuff on the dock here.
Well, I might have got some water on my keyboard. Anyway, yeah, if it's not listed anywhere, how are players to know that it's actually working at all?
Players are just supposed to intuit how things work from my brain. It's just, I come on stream and I go, blur, and then they interpret that as, this is how these champions work and how those champions work.
Yeah, I mean, that might have sounded slightly sarcastic, but yeah, absolutely. If it's not listed, then it's really hard to tell that it's doing what it's supposed to do.
I completely agree. Yeah. I did not realize that it was not listed. Okay.
All right, next question here is from OG17. The question is, it says, it was mentioned that Daub's main ability is functionally identical to Paulton's, but it's also much stronger. Is Paulton up for a change?
So I assume the main ability, I think you're talking about just his non-adjacent buff. Paulton does have a non-adjacent buff. It is a little bit different in that it's based off of, I believe, the number of adjacent champions is what is how it is determined what the base buff will be. So it is a little bit different. Definitely, I am seeing some comments here that people are thinking that Daub is very similar to Paulton. That certainly didn't cross our mind when we were sort of looking at him. But I can certainly see that people might think that, sort of looking at the designs now. There are obviously some different mechanics between the two. I think the fact that Daub is missing this Maryland meat grinder synergy thing is certainly one thing that makes them look more similar than they necessarily are. Daub's gold find thing can get quite high. His buff from that can get quite high. And is actually capped, and I believe the cap is also not included in the description if I was reading correctly through some stuff. So there's a couple of things with Daub that we'll kind of update to make his abilities a little bit more clear, and hopefully you can see how they are different. With that said, Paulton is a much older champion. Paulton may very well be updated in the future. Perhaps when we kind of take a look at sort of all the Waffle crew or the C team or that sort of group of champions in the future. Okay, the next question is from Cassius 335, which I think is a totally serious question here, and they ask, before you get too far into planning idle Rourkes, any chance of Crusaders getting a sequel?
Well, you gotta have to ask the non-serious questions, I hope. I mean, is both portions non-serious? Who knows? Maybe people really are looking forward to Crusaders 2.
Crusaders 2, or maybe it'll be Idle Champions 2 Crusaders of the Lost Mickey Rourkes.
3D. It has to be 3D. I think this is sort of an evolution.
That's the next Bushwhacker game.
Yeah. Oh, right.
There's already been a Bushwhacker 2, so the next one's got to be Bushwhacker 3D.
Yes. Assumption is that's not a serious question, but the answer is that we have no plans for a sequel to Crusaders at this time.
To be fair, we also have no plans for a sequel to Idle Champions at this time. So
that's fair. It doesn't
Spoilers.
need a sequel.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here is an off-topic question, which I'm a little surprised you highlighted, but we'll find out anyway. This one is also from Cassius, asking about the new She-Hulk show. Without spoilers, do you have any opinions on the new She-Hulk show? Apparently episode 2 came out, and they are hearing good things.
Yeah, I only watched episode 1. I haven't seen episode 2 because I was, as I mentioned, watching Iron Man 2 last night. So I saw the first episode, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Yeah, it's quite funny and fun.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, what is this question?
Catching you off guard. You're like waiting for the next question. Wait. Oh, I'm supposed to read that.
It's highlighted in purple, so it's for either of us. Anyway, this one is from Skuin, who asks, "How about recall for familiar?"
Well, I mean, obviously we can't recall what familiars we have or not.
I don't know if that's what they're asking.
Yes, this is one of those ones that every time it comes up, I mean to make a note of it. This is that you can't recall the familiars unless you go over to the parties and take them out manually.
Right.
Which seems a little bit on the silly side. Seeing as, of course, you can pull champions out, why can't you pull familiars out? So I think that should be in the list and that we should address that. I can't make a promise on timeline for it, but I will put it into the list because it does. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to recall a familiar the same way you can recall a champion. So there it is, and it's tagged.
Great. Okay. Next question. From Stargazer 1820.
All right.
I assume I read all the ones that are
no.
And they ask, is there a possibility to get an on-the-fly in-game overlay with filter options like show all with tags, evil, DPS, human, etc. would help many players, especially new players like me.
Yeah.
They want to filter the champions?
So I was gonna see if you had any kind of if you knew exactly what they were talking about here on the flying game overlay for filters. So
I'm not
100% clear.
Sure.
Yeah, what's being asked, if this is for the champions or for monsters or probably for champions, right?
Because probably for champions,
we don't have monsters tagged as DPS.
All the monsters are DPS monsters for the most part.
Maybe.
So it's like you click to kind of like put a champion in a slot, and you can like select some tags and or just be able to just bring up some filters, and it only shows you the champions that match those filters or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I can definitely see the use case. Right.
I see in the chat Stargazer saying while on the run in order to set up the formation.
Right. So it's like, you know, you start with a champion who uses who synergizes well with like evil champions, right? And you're like, okay, now show me all the other evil champions that I have or that are available, and then you could pull those ones into the formation.
Right.
I mean, I could certainly see the use case for that. I don't know if I could see exactly how that would be done.
Yeah,
it does feel like Branwyn Kenku there saying formation builder would be lovely, and it does feel kind of like a feature of a kind of formation builder feature, where it's kind of separate from the game, and so it can have some kind of different UI built around it, and maybe function a little bit differently. Because trying to band-aid or bandage this kind of stuff on top of kind of all the existing complexity of the UI would potentially be very, very challenging.
Yeah, it definitely sounds a little tricky. I'm not quite picturing what it would look like, but I know it certainly would be nice to be able to do something like a formation builder, which I know we started, but never finished. So, all right. Next question. This one is from Mind Trocity. Will there be a visible pity counter on chests and such? It would help when deciding which chest to go for next during events, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we currently have the pity timer on the chest. When you have at least one chest on the chest screen, will show the pity timer. Obviously, that's not helpful if you don't have any chests of that type. Did we add the pity timer to the time gate, or is that just something that we highlighted as something we wanted to do?
I'm pretty sure that is on the wanted to do, not complete list, but it could very well be that it got done and I don't have an update on it.
I don't think it's been done, but certainly I think putting that pity timer for chests in more places, I think would be would certainly be helpful. I agree that it would be a good quality of life feature. And I don't think we have any particular reason why we wouldn't want to do that.
No, I don't think so. I think it's useful to know, and it's not hurting any balance or anything to know that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Let's see. Next question is from Maniac Clown, and they ask, will we ever see the ability to type in the number of something we want to buy? This would be especially handy for patron chests because the UI gets a little sluggish when buying them.
Yeah, so probably not. typically sort of our go-to when we want to have something where we've got multiples is to do a scroll bar type system for it. Justin, remind me what the patron chest UI.
Patron chests
does not.
When you buy them for patron currency, it's just a one click, and you have to click buy. The reason it probably gets sluggish is because each time you click buy, it has to go to the server, spend the patron currency, get the chest back, confirm that you had enough patron currency and all that stuff, and then it updates to allow you to click it again. So that's certainly that would be why that's slow.
Yeah, okay. So certainly adding a slider into some of those places would make sense. I mean, typically we avoid sort of any place where you have to type in a number, mainly because we do have multiple types of UI, and it's much simpler, especially on the console UIs, to have something where it's left and right, up and down kind of setup rather than pull up a keyboard and type something in. So we try to keep those consistent, and it gives us less systems to have to manage if we were doing sort of both systems in each place. It's easier just to have one system. But yeah, if they're missing if the difficulty is that it's a one-off, then having a slider of some sort is the general answer that we prefer to go to. So I'll tag that, and we can see if we're going to get a slider on that. Okay, next question. This one is from Mindtrocity again. Would it be possible to make it so that no one can access patrons' blessings, champions, and everything else while there's no adventure running?
Did you say no one can access that? No, it says the opposite of that.
Oh, it's like done. Get a spider on it? What am I reading? Oh,
I think you're reading chat from not this, but yes.
Okay.
So the question was, can we make it so you can access patrons, blessings, champions, everything else while there is no adventure running? The opposite of making it so no one can access that stuff. We are making some progress on this. This is something definitely that we've heard requested and something that we would like to do. We've kind of described in the past why it's hard to do, which is because that the data for those dialogues is not necessarily active when you're at the campaign map. It's only active if you have an adventure running, which is why it's available through when you're on an adventure and not available when you're on the campaign map. Now, things have changed since we initially kind of answered that, because now it's possible that you could have multiple parties, and so you could have a party that is on an adventure at the same time as you're on the campaign map. There might be some ways for us to do that now. I think the last time I kind of checked in on this, no one was 100% sure off the top of their head what data was loaded and what not loaded if all your parties are on the campaign map. So I think it's definitely something we can look into. One thing I will say that's a little bit of a teaser is we are looking at ways to make the currently active patron challenges more visible while you're on the campaign map. That's one of those things that Dave was kind of teasing a little bit earlier when he was talking about features that the dev team's been working on, instead of going through his large list of things that we are working on. So that is something that we can hopefully get out pretty soon. When is that? Blessings and champions and stuff is
scheduled to be rolled out
within the next 1 to 3 weeks.
I thought it was even sooner than that, but
I think we talked about yesterday about the idea of just rolling it out kind of ASAP, since it's not necessarily tied directly to other features. So
coming soon, TM, but not the soon, TM.
We're just going to be very vague about it and exactly what it is even. So there's something cool coming out that I think everyone will find incredibly useful.
Except for that one person.
Except for you.
Okay.
Let's see. Next question.
Did we answer that question? Yeah.
Yes. Next question is from, and also I think the name there is Mindtrocity, not Mindtrocity.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's fair. That's totally fair. I see it now.
I think the 100th episode, the special thing we should do for the 100th episode is it should just be an hour of us trying to pronounce names. I think that would be really fun.
Or tedious after the first 30 seconds.
Fun/tedious.
All right.
Oh, actually, there's something very interesting coming up that is not us mispronouncing a name. It is, in fact, our weekly, semi-annual, whatever it is, weekly giveaway of chests. So the way this works, if you haven't been in before, is you go into chat, you load it up, you log into your Twitch account, and you type in the keyword, which will pop up in chat very soon, or may have already popped up in chat, depending on our lag. And that will enter you into a raffle to win 42 chests of your choice. They can be any chests that are in the game except for Glory of Bahamut chests. So they could be gold chests. They could be a gold chest for a specific champion. They could be Modron component chests. You could do Electrum chests if you really just wanted more of the same stuff you can get by just watching streams. You can try and get those admin secret admin chests,
magical clairvoyant admin chests.
Yeah, only golden epic items
for the champion you're thinking of.
They reach into your mind. It's incredible technology. They reach into your mind and get it out. Get out the chest you want, or the champion you want. Anyway, but you have to know the name of those chests exactly, because you have to request those chests by name. And if you request the wrong chest, we just don't give you anything. So so that's happening right now. The keyword's Daub time. I've talked about it enough. Let's move on to the next question. The next question is from Dota2 Norax, who asks, when a familiar is unused, we get a red mark on the familiars button. Can we get that red icon on the changelog with the number for the amount of updates we haven't checked since the last time we loaded the changelog?
Familiars unused. Yes, the little thing that has a number on it that says how many familiars you have available.
Yes, just something to remind you to check the changelog and see all the latest and greatest updates, all of the fixes we've done.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea at all. I like it. What I don't like is the sound that my system just made, as Windows is now asking to do an update, which I think is a really, really bad timing on Windows' part. Yeah. So let's just postpone that and carry on. But update number on the changelog is a good idea. Cool. Next question. This question is from Canelian, asking, any exciting things you want to tease about the 5-year anniversary? I'm hyped and totally not fishing for info.
Yeah, there's something that's been kind of bugging me for about 8 months now. And it is that nobody has found the major Easter egg that I put into the year-end blog. I guess it's not 8 months because we released the year-end blog in February. So 6 months. But we did a year-end blog last year, or early this year, January 31st. So I got it in before February. And I put some teasers in there for cool stuff that's coming up. And no one really found that. And so I feel like there's some cool stuff that's coming out in the next several weeks around the anniversary, and the blog literally says what it is, but no one's found it yet. So go check out that year-end blog.
Everyone is now leaving the stream and going to the blog, and they're going to see what it's like. 2 minutes from now,
and get hyped. So yeah,
they'll be asking in the chat in 2 minutes from now.
Yes.
Okay, next question. This one is from Winterborn 2. Winterborn 1 2.
Yeah.
Which would be like 12. Winterborn 1, born 12. Is there any plan to make Modron chests purchasable with gems?
This is a very good question, and a very simple question to answer. No, there are no plans to make Modron chests purchasable with gems.
Okay. Can you elaborate, or is it just a hard no?
It is a hard no. It's just Modron chests are kind of a limited resource to make the pipe game interesting. I think if everyone could just have full epic pipes of all the things they wanted, it wouldn't be very interesting. And if you could purchase Modron chests with gems, that would be the end game, because gems are quite easy to farm in the end game.
Fair enough. It appears there is some confusion in the chat. They do not believe you wrote a year-end blog.
I did. I wrote a year-end blog almost 7 months ago.
Yep. Okay. Next question. This one is from Dota 2 Norax. Can we make Reforge independent of Forge for the legendary timers?
Yeah, so there are some changes that we want to make to forging legendary items and to reforging and upgrading them. One of those changes is to actually change some of the timers around. I don't think that I think the change is basically that the forging timer will no longer exist, and they'll just primarily be a reforged timer. So that would be something that we would like to change at some point. We do have some Trials Mount Tiamat changes that are a lot closer to coming out than that particular one. Yeah, I don't think the legendary stuff is coming out soon, but I think there is some other stuff coming out soon for Trials Mount Tiamat changes that we've been talking about for ages and ages. So hopefully those make it out, maybe in time for the anniversary. If not, then soon after.
Oh wow! Sorry, I'm just reading ahead in the question. that one's just wow. Okay, well we'll put that in the list. That's a good question. Fun
okay,
times.
Well the next question is for you, Dave. It's from Skuin, and they ask, can we have a next or back arrow when you open a champion profile, instead of check one, close, and click to open the other?
So, unless I'm misinterpreting this, the champion profiles, you can click the characters at the top to move between them, at least from the ones that are in your active.
In the normal UI. What about is this potentially console UI?
I mean, they use click in the description.
That is true.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a interpretation of the question, or they're just not familiar that you can click that at the top, but you can go between them by clicking the character portrait at the top. And if there was some additional feature or functionality you're asking about there, just follow up in the chat, and we'll see if we can catch anything in your active party. Yeah, the champions that are in your active party, their portraits are shown across the top, and you should be able to click between them to see their character's profile without having to move or having to close it and open it again.
Should work.
In the active formation, or just the ones that are in the. If you have multiple parties, it'll be the ones that are along the bottom. The ones that are on your hero bar are the ones you can switch between. Okay.
Let us move on.
All right. Next question here, interestingly enough, is about a blog. This one is from Rough Rider 91. The question is, will we have a dev blog review of Trials of Mount Tiamat for its upcoming anniversary? Or will it be 2 months late?
Yeah, right. It was only 1 month late. Thank you very much. So there are some changes, as I mentioned just a couple of questions ago. There are some changes that we have planned for Trials Mount Tiamat around just trying to make it a little bit more friendly. Some of those include, like starting the adventure as soon as it's full and everyone's picked their party. Or their focus champion. Some of it is around dealing with people who don't contribute and making sure that everyone is sort of pulling their own weight. I think there are some changes coming around the costs to start new adventures or new trials campaigns to try and make that a little bit more fair across the board. So yeah, there are a bunch of changes coming. I am not sure if we're going to do a dev blog or just kind of a normal blog explaining those. I'm comparing, I'm differentiating those in that when we do dev blogs, I'm the one who writes those, and the more sort of informational ones are written by the community team. So I generally get into more nitty gritty and details in my dev blogs than the community team does. But yeah, I'm not sure which of those we're going to write, or like I say, hopefully some of that stuff gets out soon. But if not, then it will be a little bit longer. But yeah, we did talk about that today, and we're hoping to get some of that stuff out with the anniversary. If not, then a couple of weeks later.
All right, we're back up to where we were at. All right, next question here is from, oh no, why? And why? This is.
I actually only highlighted this question for the name.
Harichiko.
No, but I think you can do it.
Harichiro.
There's no R there.
Yeah, there is. There's an R.
Well, there is, but it comes after the CH, so you can't have the R sound.
Gaming. That's it. I got it.
Okay.
I hope.
You did it.
Apologies. Hachiriko.
There's no R before the CH.
Is Vi going to get a rework, like making her speed ability boost item pickup or area transition? Let me say that a bit better. Like making her speed ability boost item pickup or area transition.
First I'd say I forgive you for not knowing the names of the question askers, but you should know how to pronounce at least the champion names.
Sorry, I was still hung up on the name. There was a process running, and it was hanging for a second. I had a little bit,
kill the process.
Yep.
So the question is basically, is Vi going to get a rework to make her speed ability work better, or even her gold find work better? And the answer is yeah, both of those things we've kind of identified as issues with the Vi design. Vi's design, interesting enough, was something that happened kind of early on when we got a new designer here, and it was one of their first designs. And I stand by it still, but we definitely had some issues that we will definitely address when we get around to taking a second look at Vi. And so we'll definitely take a look, especially at the gold find, how the gold find works, because it does not work very well in practice. Works great in theory, but not in practice. And the speed ability is potentially a little bit more confusing than it needs to be. So yeah, there's some changes that Vi will get when we eventually get around to doing a pass on her, or a second pass on her.
All right. Next question. This one is from Thunder JP. The question is there a reason that Farida's hellish rebuke is not positional?
So this is a good question. So hellish rebuke is an ability, for those who don't know, on Frida. It causes champions, I think it initially just causes champions adjacent to Frida to kind of do a counter attack when they're attacked. It might be within 2 slots with a specialization, something like that. Anyway, it has some her, then adjacent, then extended with a spec. Thank you, Garwar, for knowing the game better than I do. So yeah. So I guess it's not positional in the sense that it cannot be usurped or stolen by Artemis in that way, and it does have to do with kind of how the effect is implemented. I think that kind of ability would be one of them that when we get through when we get through sort of our classification, our manual classification of formation abilities, that we might flag that as positional. Even though it is not currently kind of auto flagged as positional by the system. So yeah, the reason it's not positional right now is because however it is implemented, it doesn't get sort of caught as being a positional formation ability, and that might be something that we update in the future, so that champions like Artemis and Archon and others can spread that around a bit.
All right. I see they pasted something from the blog there into the chat, Justin. And I can see that the last bit here, the bit that we're teasing, is clearly some other stuff that is only half designed but will be really cool, we promise. That
it will be, and it's now fully designed and mostly implemented. So,
but is it really cool? I mean, can you make that assessment
it is really cool
at this point? No?
Yeah, I can say it is very cool. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like the spoiler in there was not as spoiler as you promised.
No, there's literally a spoiler in there. It's yeah. Anyway.
But not in that text.
Not that particular text there. Well, actually, is it? Oh, it is. Yes, it is. It is in that text. It's just the formatting on that text is a little bit off.
Okay. Nevertheless, next question from Scooters76. Could you add a quality of life improvement for patron character selection by showing the feat chevrons, gray for unowned and purple for owned, on the character swap screen to indicate whether the character could be used by changing feats?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we've talked about before. Yes, we've talked about potentially doing that. It's just a question of how we would go about doing that. But yeah, I'm sure this has gotten marked in yellow before at some point. I will mark it in yellow now.
Okay.
The next question here. This is one that you were laughing at earlier. Yeah, this is a rough question. It's a good thing we don't have any of our art team on this call. But the question is, and I mean, to be fair, there is an answer to this. Yeah. So it's from Connect-T2K. Who apparently has a 2K monitor, which is pretty cool. And they ask, why are the graphics / animations so incredibly low quality? Will they ever be fully revamped and improved?
Yeah, like I said, that's a harsh interpretation. Low quality isn't quite the word I would use for it, but it is a particular stylistic choice. You know, the characters that are
low fidelity, I think, is
lower fidelity.
Lower fidelity. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they followed up shortly further down a similar question, or if it was maybe a reword of that question, because I see like what looks like a duplicate copy of a question down here, but their follow-up here was, will the graphic animations be fully revamped and improved? And then their example is graphics from like the actual D&D rulebooks or official artworks. And certainly a lot of the art in the rulebooks and the official artworks are the kind of thing that, you know, someone spends weeks doing sort of key art or painting on, that is certainly a incredibly high detail fidelity, not the kind of thing that we'd ever be able to put in game, you know, beyond some of our lovely key art that gets placed out on various adverts. But I know that Ivy spends, you know, weeks making those. But yeah, the graphic style is a choice. Sort of that cartoon look and feel is something that we designed from the get-go as the intention, and it's something that we can do at a rate, like we can actually create the monsters and the characters for that at in an amount of time that we can get updates out at the rate that we regularly do, and it's not something that we have any designs on changing at this point. So it's sort of the style is a stylistic choice, and part of it is because, you know, like I say, it's a style that we can produce at the rate at which we need to do so. And as far as like, just, I mean, when you say low quality, I mean, that's again, it's sort of a taste thing. We look at that, I think a lot of it looks quite good, but yeah, that's the style.
Yeah, I think if we tried to, you know, replicate the kind of painterly, like concept art, kind of, you know, basically painted kind of colors and images that you see in the D&D rulebooks and official artworks and whatnot, there'd be no way we could get even a tenth of the content out that we get out every week or every month, just because that stuff takes orders of magnitude more time to do than the style we have.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question here is from. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to highlight this one here, and I'm going to answer this one. The next question is from Emote.
Okay, you're going to ask it and answer it.
Yeah, I'm going to ask and answer it because I'm that good. Any news on tanking feats for Celise? She's still lacking any. Yes, tanking feats for Celise are in the current build lock, which I believe locks next week, and so we'll get those localized and get those out hopefully fairly soon. So yes, tanking feats for Celise. We saw that request the last 20 times it was asked, and we finally did something about it on the 19th. So yeah, they're coming soon.
And as commented in the chat, Justin, this is a fair critique. The game is all about orders of magnitude.
Okay.
And actually, I'll add another comment to that too, because I noticed that OG17 is talking about the 3/4 walk cycles. Some of the walk cycles are a little odd.
Yes,
it is something that's become more apparent with the shop 3, where we're showing the larger ones, and it is something that I've brought up with Adam, and I know they're going to be doing some art review on some of that, just because some of them are a little weird, and some of them have more fidelity than others. I've noticed some they've gone out of their way to animate like all the little dangly bits and everything, and then some of them are just sort of a little stilted. So it is that particular piece, the walk cycles there could have some improvement. So I would like to see some there.
Yeah.
next question.
Okay, the next question is from Devil Crayon, and they ask question, well, more of a UI request. Could we get the journal scroll actions to trigger on standard keyboard inputs like arrow keys and page up, page down?
Yes, we can. I know it was asked last time, and I'm asking again here. I'm just going to tag that. That seems simple enough, and sure, why not?
Yeah, we can do it for the journal. It's harder to do, I guess, that sort of thing on a general case for scroll bars because we don't have the concept of focus and out of focus, I assume, in the UI. So there's no way to know like which which particular UI you want to scroll if you're hitting the arrow keys.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I'll comment. And we didn't mention it this time, but I know sort of the question from the chat there is we are seeing some people walking back and forth behind me. We are having renovations done here. And so there's both a contractor and an electrician doing work in the background. So
not as exciting as last week when there was like a mechanical man on stilts.
The drywaller's stilts were. Yep.
That was really awesome.
I think you covered it. So let's move on.
Where is Elisa? Elisa is over in the other office because her office is one of the ones being renovated. But now we're just answering. This is this is turned from Dev Insights into Dev Office Insights. So let's see. A question here from Rough Rider 91 who asks, are patch notes missing in game for 2 to 3 updates?
I don't think so, but I can prod Peter about that and make sure they're getting in there, but I don't think they should be. Okay. Here's a question. I think we probably this is probably the last question we've got time for.
Okay.
This one is from Suram9. The question is, I've purchased champions from you in the recent past. Brackets, good for you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Now to unlock the 3 variant achievement, it cost me 18 time pieces, well, which was kind of ouch, but okay. But the reset for the Mr. Favor right after one time gate set really holds me back from wanting to do it. Could it be possible to make it so that when you were done with time gates in whole and close the time gate window is when you have to when you're done with time gates just in general, when you're finished with that time gate close the time gate window is when you have to convert favor, or is it that too hardwired?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So basically you're wanting to do another time gate and keep your Mr. Favor for that second or third or fourth time gate. And it's an interesting kind of question. I'm assuming it's I guess there's 2 ways that this could stem from. One is you would like to hold on to that favor so that the subsequent time gates you start out a little bit faster, meaning you progress a little bit quicker in them. Or the other option is you want to get more favor so that you can do a bigger convert at the end. I would say for the second thing there, if that's what you're after, you're actually probably better off doing multiple conversions because they're percentage based and because of the way that they kind of ramp up. You're actually going to get more favor in your other permanent favors if you convert multiple times, as opposed to if you just do one big convert. And that's just because of the way that the conversion percentage ramps up as you get more favor, more Mr. Favor. It's got diminishing returns essentially. For the other sort of way that I could see this being useful in that, being able to start your second or third time gate with a bunch of favor and therefore being able to get more gold and unlock your champions faster and progress faster. I think that is something that kind of comes with getting deeper into the game. As you get more patron perks, as you get more blessings unlocked, as you get your Modron cores more powered up, I think that that starting sort of slog at the beginning of events and the beginning of time gates starts to go a lot quicker. I know that we were doing some testing recently, and for a small subset of champions, we're able to get up to like area 300 without any real effort whatsoever. Without needing any favor or anything aside from just some really powerful Modron cores and some good equipment and patron perks and blessings. So I do think that it's an interesting kind of suggestion.
Just gonna have to pause you for time there, Justin, because we are basically out.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
got your answer off.
Well, thank you for the question. I think that it's something that as you kind of play deeper into the game, it becomes less of an issue if it has to do with starting up. Anyway, we're out of time.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, if we didn't get to your question, or if I got cut off halfway through the answer, don't worry, you'll have another opportunity. We'll be live again at this same time next week. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Martin and Jordan. They're the ones who copy your questions into our questions doc so that we can look at them and answer them. And they generally make things awesome in the chat as well. So thanks, guys.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, and enjoying the game, and asking such great questions, because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
We'd have to do something else, and we like what we do.
That's true. All right. Enjoy the next show, everyone.
Yeah. Stay tuned for next show.
Office Insights. As it turns out, we do have a red swingline stapler that we bought just because of that movie.
The more you know.